Tonight,
we will need a lot of operators for the well. We are going to need a lot of operators for the capture facility.
one of the world's largest carbon capture facilities could be coming to Manitoba. What it's for and how many jobs might be created. Also tonight, longer detentions.
This is about keeping the community safe.
The Premier eyes a spot in Point Douglas for a new detention facility for people high on meth. Plus, not just hanging out.
As soon as you step over the ledge and the dog's on you, your heart rate definitely goes up.
Why these dogs and their handlers were dangling off a building in Brandon.
CTV News. Live from downtown Winnipeg with Marilee Caruso.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us. A massive environmental development has been announced for southwestern Manitoba. Montreal-based company Deep Sky says it will start building a carbon capture facility in the Pipestone Two Borders area next year. The company says when at full capacity, more than 500,000 tons of CO2 will be removed. CTV's Jeff Keel joins us now live with the details. So, Jeff, how many jobs will this create?
A lot, 1,000 construction jobs and hundreds more to operate the building. One of the world's largest carbon capture facilities is being planned for southwestern Manitoba.
I really think we have a unique opportunity in the next couple of years here to really put Canada on the map for global carbon removal.
Montreal-based Deep Sky says shovels will hit the ground in early 2026 for the $200 million first phase of the project, which they say will eventually remove 500,000 tons of CO2 from the atmosphere every year. The company says this will create 1,000 construction jobs and hundreds more people will be needed to work at the facility.
We will need a lot of maintenance folks. We will need a lot of operators for the well. We are going to need a lot of operators for the capture facility. And I think Manitoba is really interesting because it actually has a very suitable labor force.
They've narrowed down their choice to 2 sites in the RMs of Pipestone and Two Borders.
It's unbelievable the amount of jobs it's going to create and the economy, what it'll do for the economy.
Deep Sky also has a partnership with the Dakota Grand Tribal Council.
A percentage will go to Deep Sky and a percentage will go to our nations for economic development.
The Premier says the province made changes to legislation so the project would be eligible for federal tax credits.
When we can find an opportunity for people to bring federal investment to Manitoba at the same time that business, a new startup like this, an exciting industry, is bringing money to Manitoba, it seems like a real win for the economy.
Deep Sky says Manitoba was chosen because of the geological makeup of the region and the hydro needed to power the project. Some environmental groups are skeptical of carbon capture, arguing there are better uses for the energy, like electrifying transit.
We would say that it's an unproven, costly, and incredibly energy-intensive approach to emissions reduction.
The Manitoba facility will both capture and store carbon, which Deep Sky says saves on transportation costs.
Jeff, we heard from the Premier. Is the province putting any money for the project, like direct supports or tax credits?
We asked the Premier that question. He says all they're putting on the table is the legislative changes and regulatory framework needed to move this forward.
All right. Thanks for this, Jeff. The province is eyeing Point Douglas for the first longer-term detention center for intoxicated people. The Premier confirms his government is looking to create 20 spaces at Nadina Waymak on the Disraeli Freeway near Main Street. It would be followed by another 20 spaces early in the new year. It comes as the Premier tries to pass laws allowing authorities to detain a person for up to 72 hours, opposed to the current 24 hours. Wab Canoe says the current law was written with alcohol in mind, but a person can be intoxicated for much longer when on drugs such as meth.
This is about protecting people, but also protecting the community and addressing costs in the healthcare system. So when I think about the emergency room at Health Sciences Center, when I think about kids walking home from school in some of these neighborhoods, when I think about seniors who've been targeted in random violence by people who are using meth, to me the justification is so strong for us to move to open this facility.
Canoe added a longer detention time would give workers a greater opportunity to connect people with addictions and medical support. Opposition PC leader Abi Khan supports extending the time a person can be detained while intoxicated, but says there's still too many unanswered questions.
Questions like who's going to work these? who's going to transport people from one site to one site, what's going to happen in rural Manitoba, who's going to fund these, where are they going to find the healthcare workers, where are these going to be built, who's going to pay for them.
MLAs were scheduled to debate and vote on the amendments this afternoon. Well, believe it or not, the puck drops on the Winnipeg Jets' 15th season in just under an hour. And excitement is building both inside and outside Canada Life Centre. CTV's Daniel Halmerson is hanging around the arena tonight. Daniel, what should Jets fans know about this one?
Well, Marilee, there's no bigger storyline than the Winnipeg Jets debut of hometown hero Jonathan Toews. Now, he signed in the offseason for 1 year after missing 2 seasons due to health issues. But if you recall, he was actually left off the initial opening night roster earlier this week, but he took part in morning skate, and Coach Scott Arniel says Toews is in. He'll be on the second line tonight, and the man himself told us earlier he's ready to go and he's done talking. Now, he's expected to be a pretty big part of this team this year on that second line, a team looking to build off a President's Trophy season last year, finishing with the best record in the regular season. Speaking of the President's Trophy, the banner's going up tonight before puck drop, and the trophy itself is in the building, so fans can get a photo of that. But that's not the only trophy there. There's 3 others, the Hart, the Vezina, and the Jennings, and they all belong to one man, Connor Hellebuyck, who, of course, is getting the start tonight in net. And he and the rest of the Jets are looking to exact revenge against the same team that knocked them out in the Stanley Cup playoffs, the Dallas Stars. It's going to be a barn burner tonight here in Winnipeg, and I'll have a full a full tee-up of tonight's game coming up around 6:30.
All right, looking forward to it, Danny. Thanks a lot. Now, as Danny mentioned, besides tonight's game, fans have a unique opportunity to see some of the NHL's most coveted trophies.
The trophies are always on display at the Hockey Hall of Fame in Toronto. Obviously, not everybody can make it to Toronto, so I think it's important that the teams share the awards and the trophies that their team has won with the fans.
And there they are. Check out that hardware. The Jets won the President's Trophy last season as the team clinched first place in the regular season standings. And goalie Connor Hellebuyck won 3 NHL trophies, including the Vezina for the best goalie in the league, the William Jennings for allowing the fewest goals, and the Hart Trophy for becoming the league's most valuable player.
Not a lot of goalies that are on the trophy, so as a goaltender to win it as well, that speaks highly. You know, Carey Price, Jacques Plante, there's very, very few goaltenders that have won it, so Winnipeg should be very excited and thrilled to have him as part of their team.
All of them are on display at Canada Life Centre for tonight's home opener, the Manitoba Moose home opener tomorrow, and the Jets' Saturday matinee game against the Los Angeles Kings. All right, let's bring in Catherine Dow now. Catherine, what's the forecast like for everyone heading down to tonight's big home opener?
It's looking pretty gorgeous. As you saw, that sun was reflecting off the skywalk. Also want to mention, I do have a couple of participation trophies in my trophy case. I don't want Hellebuyck to feel bad, but those are available to add to that collection if anyone wants to see them. Yeah, so it's gorgeous and sunny out there, Marilee, as fans file into downtown, into the Canada Life Centre. Not a lot to show you on the radar. A little bit more to the north as clouds continue to build. There is a chance, as there has been for the last couple of days, of some instability in northern Manitoba, slight chance of some rainfall. Whereas we here in the south, I know I was warning about that coming later on in the weekend. It could come a little sooner than expected. I'll have details on when that rainfall is expected to come and the rest of your Thanksgiving long weekend forecast. But right now, let's look outside. Man, it's gorgeous. 15 degrees, clear skies, strong winds. They will be tapering off in due time out of the northwest at 24, gusting at times to 39 clicks. Pressure is falling, humidity at 54%.
The Bathfitter Live Eye is brought to you by Bathfitter, your bath and shower experts for more than 40 years.
RCMP are asking for your help finding a suspect following an alleged kidnapping. It happened in Thompson last week. A 25-year-old woman reported being drugged at a bar, forcibly taken to a residence in Gillam. She told police over 48 hours she was assaulted and threatened, at one point having a gun pointed at her. She was able to escape and call police. Officers later arrested a 41-year-old woman from Gillam, but another suspect is still on the loose. 36-year-old Riley Champagne of Gillam is wanted on charges of kidnapping with a firearm, forcible confinement, assault with a weapon, and weapon-related offenses. Anyone with information is asked to call Gillam RCMP or Crime Stoppers. 2 construction workers in downtown Winnipeg narrowly escaped a knife attack. It happened Tuesday afternoon at a construction site in the 200 block of Portage Avenue. Police say a man pulled out a knife and began chasing 2 workers. The men were able to escape to a nearby building, although one worker had his jacket slashed. About 20 minutes later, officers found and arrested the suspect on Balmoral Street. A knife was seized at the time of his arrest. The man is now facing assault and weapon-related charges and is still in custody. No apologies from the Manitoba Premier tonight after taking some heat from the Manitoba legal community. The Manitoba Bar Association and the Criminal Defense Lawyers Association of Manitoba both took issue with statements Canoe made in the legislature Tuesday. He criticized a judge's decision to grant bail to a defendant charged in a case of a fatal highway crash. Today, Canoe said he's only giving a voice to the people who elected him.
I respect that line between what we do here as the legislative and executive branches of government and what the judges and JJPs do with the judicial branch of government. But this is a democracy, and every arm of government needs to have a way to listen to the voice of the people. And in this case, you know, I'm just helping to articulate a real concern that I think everyone recognizes around bail reform, catch and release, whatever you want to call it. The point is, a lot of people are fed up and frustrated with what they perceive to be a revolving door in the justice system.
The case involves a fatal crash near Altona last November that killed 35-year-old Sarah Unger and her 8-year-old daughter, Alexa. Navjeet Singh is charged with 2 counts of dangerous driving causing death. This week, a judge granted bail to Singh, even though he previously evaded police for 9 months by leaving Canada. Singh is now back in Canada to face trial. Earlier this week, a judge granted bail, allowing Singh to live in Ontario with conditions. If you want to work with Canada's heavy urban search and rescue disaster response team, you cannot have a fear of heights. Today, teams from 3 different provinces were rappelling down a tall building, and as CTV's John Hendricks shows you, they did not go over the ledge alone.
It isn't every day that you see a dog rappelling down a 5-story building, but that's exactly what was happening at the Brandon Airport Thursday. And it wasn't just a single dog taking the plunge. A whole pack of dogs, along with their handlers, went over the ledge.
I wasn't nervous walking up, but as soon as you step over the ledge and the dog's on you, your heart rate definitely goes up. But you know what? It's all a learning opportunity.
And indeed, that's exactly why Canon Wong and other members from Canada's heavy urban search and rescue disaster response teams are in Brandon right now.
Okay, little attention.
Thursday, teams from Alberta and Vancouver, BC joined the Manitoba team for ongoing training.
I truly believe that 98% of people in Canada don't even know we have the capability which we have here.
And that includes the capability to drop into any disaster and search and rescue the victims. This includes from a collapsed building, a scenario the Vancouver team actually encountered in 2022.
We had a building parkade, rooftop parkade collapse in Vancouver, and it's where the rooftop parkade collapsed onto a bakery that was underneath, and my canine was actually the one that found the person.
Crawling over the rubble of a collapsed building isn't easy for the dog or their handler. That's why the teams train relentlessly and validate their skills every year.
These guys work really hard and train really hard to be ready for if any kind of disaster happened and did happen, our guys are prepared to go and to assist anybody that needs it.
No matter how high, they have to go to do it. John Hendricks, CTV News, Brandon.
The former executive assistant to late Elmwood East Kildonan councillor Jason Schreier launched his campaign today to take over the seat, and it kicked off with an endorsement from Schreier's widow.
I hope you vote for him. If you voted for Jason, vote for Chris. You will not be disappointed.
Sarah Schreier says her husband considered candidate Chris Swarita to be a close friend and kindred spirit. Sorita worked with Schreier as his executive assistant for the past 3 years, right up until Schreier's death in April. If elected, he plans to carry on the work Schreier started in the community.
Jason and I had many projects on the go, and replacing the Louise Bridge was one of our projects, working with nonprofit and other community groups to try to lower the cost of living for the constituents in this area. That was a huge passion of Jason's, and I share that passion, and I'm hoping for the chance to continue the work we've begun.
Sorita says his other priorities include restoring the service of the old transit system, cracking down on crime in the community, and advocating for more provincial action on homelessness. Sorita is one of 7 nominated candidates in the by-election set for October 25th. The men and women on the front lines of this year's historic wildfire fight have been given one of Manitoba's highest honors. At the legislature this afternoon, Premier Wapkanu awarded the Order of the Buffalo Hunt to members of Manitoba's wildfire service and emergency management personnel. The Premier thanked every firefighter, emergency worker, and volunteer who worked to protect their communities. Among those recognized was a familiar face during the province's many wildfire updates this summer. Christine Stevens, the Assistant Deputy Minister for Manitoba's Emergency Management Organization.
I stand here on behalf of the many hands and hearts that carried Manitoba through this wildfire season. This recognition belongs not to one group or to one person, but to a province that rose together. People and organizations of every kind worked side by side in the face of extraordinary challenge. This was one of our most difficult wildfire seasons in our history.
More than 2 million hectares burned over the season, leading to 2 provincial states of emergency and 59 evacuation orders. Nearly 33,000 Manitobans were forced from their homes, some for months at a time. Stevens dedicated this recognition to those evacuees and to Richard and Sue Noel, the couple from Lac du Bonnet who died in a wildfire in May. Still to come tonight, jubilation across the world as Israel and Hamas agree to the first phase of a peace plan. But amid those celebrations, questions over what happens next. We will have more when we return.
Your morning just got a little brighter. Start your day with CTV Your Morning, and you could win $20,000. For your chance to win, watch CTV Your Morning Winnipeg, weekday mornings 6 to 9.
Taking a look at the markets tonight, crude oil is down $1. The Canadian dollar dropped again, 1/4 cent this time. Gold fell $97. The TSX lost 232 points. The Dow Jones closed 243 points lower, while the Nasdaq was down 18 points. A man is charged tonight nearly 2 years after a pedestrian was fatally hit by a vehicle here in Winnipeg. It happened in January of last year at Notre Dame Avenue and Cecil Street. An 18-year-old man was taken to hospital but died of his injuries. The driver, a 52-year-old man, remained at the scene. Earlier this week, police arrested him and charged him with careless driving causing death. He was released on a promise to appear in court. You can expect to see Manitoba Hydro workers and contractors coming to inspect your gas meters in the coming months. The Crown Utility is conducting an audit of some 90,000 residential and commercial customers over the next 12 to 14 months. Workers will be inspecting natural gas meters and regulators to ensure they're working properly. They will have identification and may need to enter your home or business, but they will not ask for names, account numbers, or any other personal information. People across the Middle East and beyond are cheering after Israel and Hamas agree to the first phase of a peace deal. The agreement involves a handover of hostages held in Gaza in exchange for Palestinian prisoners inside Israel. U.S. President Donald Trump says the hostages could be released as early as Monday or Tuesday. The United Nations says 170,000 tons of medicine, food, and other supplies are now ready to be moved into Gaza. CTV's Heather Wright has more on the jubilation and the 20-point peace plan that led to this moment.
Standing on top of emergency vehicles, paramedics in Gaza City celebrate the first step toward peace. Honestly, these are indescribable feelings, this man says. We can't believe it. At Hostage Square in Tel Aviv, dancing and singing. Hope that finally the hostages will soon be home.
This is the joy that we are waiting for.
While many important details still need to be ironed out, the first phase of this truce will see all remaining Israeli hostages freed in exchange for hundreds of Palestinians being held in Israeli jails. Israeli forces will also withdraw to an agreed-upon line.
The next 48 hours are crucial. We urge the parties, particularly Hamas, to follow through, release all the hostages.
Many questions still remain, with the more contentious elements of a long-term deal yet to be agreed to, including Israeli demands that Hamas disarm and the complete withdrawal of Israeli troops from the enclave.
When they disarm, whether Israel withdraws sufficiently to send a signal to Hamas that they can disarm, those are the questions going forward.
In the meantime, Israel is preparing hospitals to receive the hostages once they are released after more than 730 days in captivity. Palestinians hopeful that once the bombing stops, they can begin to rebuild their lives. A daunting task with an estimated 2 million people displaced, according to the United Nations, and much of the enclave reduced to rubble.
What we need, of course, is humanitarian supplies. We need food, we need water, hygiene, tents, equipment for the winter to support people in this new phase of the response.
U.S. President Donald Trump says the 48 remaining hostages will be released on either Monday or Tuesday, 20 of whom are still believed to be alive. Heather Wright, CTV News, Toronto.
Global Affairs Canada says Canadian aid is ready to be deployed into the Gaza Strip. Millions of dollars worth of pre-positioned supplies are ready for the United Nations and others to distribute. In developing news south of the border, New York Attorney General Letitia James was just charged as part of a mortgage fraud investigation. James was indicted on charges of bank fraud and false statements to a financial institution following a presentation to a grand jury in Virginia. The prosecutor in this case was appointed last month after her predecessor was pushed out after resisting pressure to file charges. James sued Donald Trump and his company for fraud while he was running for office, saying no one is above the law. She's denied wrongdoing, saying she made an error while filling out a form related to a home purchase. The largest walkout in Alberta history marked its fourth day today. 51,000 teachers went on strike Monday, saying students deserve smaller classes and more support. The government's latest offer, which was rejected, included a 12% wage increase over 4 years and hiring 3,000 more teachers. The union says bargaining is set to resume Tuesday. A group of Manitoba First Nations plan to take the federal government to court, claiming it hasn't seen millions of dollars in promised funding.
And so Canada had promised to pay, but hasn't provided the funding.
The Interlake Reserves Tribal Council says Indigenous Services Canada committed more than $15.5 million this past fiscal year under Jordan's Principle funding. Jordan's Principle is a legal ruling which says First Nations children must receive medical, educational, or other services in a timely manner. But the chiefs in the Interlake area claim they're still waiting for more than $5 million of the promised funding.
So because of these broken promises, we can't deliver the services our families need to survive. We have had to cut services, we've had to cut staff. We have a backlog of over 400 families in need to date. And so we've tried to work cooperatively with Canada, but the situation is urgent.
The council says it's made one last request to Ottawa, and if it doesn't have a response by tomorrow, it will file for a judicial review in federal court. CTV News has reached out to Indigenous Services Canada for comment, and we are awaiting a response. The fourth Nobel Prize of the week was announced today in Stockholm.
The Nobel Prize in Literature for 2025 is awarded to the Hungarian author Laszlo Krasznahorkai for his compelling and visionary oeuvre that in the midst of apocalyptic terror reaffirms the power of art.
Works by the latest Nobel laureate have been praised for their artistic depth. He's received many other awards, including the 2015 Man Booker International Prize and the National Book Award for Translated Literature in the U.S. Several of his works have been turned into films.
I mean, I just feel I'm at that point where I kind of want to stop talking about it. You know, I just want to go play hockey.
Puck drops tonight on the Winnipeg Jets' 15th season, and a hometown hero is ready to take the ice. Everything you need to know ahead of tonight's matchup just ahead.
Mother Nature is dishing up a bit of mixed conditions for this Thanksgiving long weekend. Showers are likely late on Saturday under some cloudy skies. Above seasonal values, though, at 17. Same goes for Sunday, under a much stronger likelihood of getting some of that moisture. But things clear up slightly for Turkey Monday. 8 degrees as those temperatures fall off under plenty of cloud coverage, but the sun is back out by Tuesday.
The Jets' 15th season in Winnipeg kicks off tonight against division rival the Dallas Stars. The Jets are looking to build off its historic campaign last year and a Stanley Cup playoff run full of heroics and eventual heartbreak. CTV's Daniel Halmerson reports.
The Winnipeg Jets take to the ice Thursday night with last season's ups and downs a distant memory. The club finished the 2024-25 NHL regular season with the league's best record. However, their Stanley Cup hopes ended in the second round of the playoffs with a Game 6 loss to the Dallas Stars, the same Central Division rivals the Jets are facing to kick off the 2025-26 campaign. Like any other NHL team, the Jets roster evolved over the summer, but the club's offseason was defined when Jonathan Toews signed a one-year contract with his hometown team.
He's intense, he's driven, he's in fantastic shape. He's excited about being here. Again, just wants to fit in. Just wants to be a part of our room, be a part of hopefully helping us have success.
Toews is making his return to the NHL after a 2-year hiatus due to health issues. The 3-time Stanley Cup winner was a question mark for Thursday's opener, but he says he's ready to roll.
Yeah, I just feel I'm at that point where I kind of want to stop talking about it. I just want to go play hockey and be part of this team.
Goaltender Connor Hellebuyck will start in net Thursday. He's coming off a career year winning the Hart and Vezina trophies as the league's most valuable player and best goalie. Josh Morrissey once again leads a reliable defensive unit, though they'll be without shutdown blue liner Dylan Sandberg for a number of weeks. Household names and fan favorites like Kyle Connor, Mark Scheifele, Gabe Velarde, and a lot of depth will join Toews up front. But Captain Adam Lowry and Manitoba Miracle goal scorer Cole Perfetti are both injured to start the year. Toews says he's ready to help this team's already strong core in its quest for a franchise-first Stanley Cup.
A big part of that culture is because of their leadership and the example they're setting. So it's fun to just kind of jump on the wagon and kind of feel the energy of the atmosphere this team has.
Puck drop from Canada Life Centre is slated for 7 o'clock. Daniel Halmerson, CTV News, Winnipeg.
The Hockey Report, brought to you by Santa Lucia Pizza. Check out the game day special. CTV Skywatch weather brought to you by South Beach Casino and Resort. Visit southbeachcasino.ca.
I was there for the Manitoba Miracle. It was incredible, and we're also excited for the seasons to come. Okay, and Mother Nature is really shining on us as the Jets kick off the new season. Lots of sunshine, as evidenced by this very clear radar, as has been the case for the last couple of days. That's because this ridge that is built over southern Alberta has moved eastward into our neck of the woods, kind of bringing very benign conditions. What that means, sunshine mild above seasonal values. Meanwhile, we have been tracking this system here for the last couple of days. This developed over the Northwest Territories, bringing a slight chance of some rainfall to much of northern Manitoba, certainly overnight tonight. But as the evening progresses, you see it start to push off there into Ontario, leaving behind likely some fog patches to the north while we stay clear here in the south. Those very strong winds, too, are letting up considerably overnight. Into tomorrow, another gorgeous day of sunshine, and temperatures not as hot as what we're seeing today, but not too shabby through most of the province in the mid-teens. And then into Friday night, we continue with those clear conditions, but it is a bit of a misnomer as to what's to come. We warned about some rainfall coming late in the weekend. It's likely to come a little bit earlier, likely into Saturday late afternoon. So while we kick us off clear, we do start to see these little speckles, if you will, this little party crasher coming over the international border there, bringing a chance for some rainfall late in the afternoon. Backtracking, though, to tonight, another clear-ish evening, 3 degrees, not quite as warm as we saw last night, but not too shabby either. Winds out of the northwest at 20 kilometers per hour. We kick it off at 5 degrees, mainly sunny skies, and those winds really letting up out of the northwest at 15 kilometers per hour. And then tomorrow, a nice warm high of 15 degrees. About 12 is what's typical. Mainly sunny skies once again, and those winds out of the southwest at 20 kilometers per hour. To the northeast, this is the region that has the chance of the rainfall tonight. A very slight chance, except for an island lake where the risk is a bit more severe. Temperatures dipping there. They're all staying below or above freezing, 2 degrees in Thompson, 4 in Gillam and Churchill, 6 degrees in Island Lake. Into tomorrow, lots of sunshine on tap. Temperatures peaking in the low teens, with the exception of Churchill, which is getting up to 7. Northwestern Manitoba, 1 or 2 clouds for you in Opaskwayak, Cree Nation and the Paw. Slight chance of some rainfall. Likely you're going to stay dry. Temperatures there dipping to above freezing, 2 in Opaskwayak, Cree Nation, 4 in Flin Flon and Norway House, Cree Nation. Lots of sunshine for you. Very similar highs to what we're seeing in the south in the mid-teens. Southwestern Manitoba, clear skies, cooler overnight lows hovering at around 0, and then lots of sunshine on tap for tomorrow with highs at 16 in Brandon and Nipawin, 17 in Dauphin and Swan River. Clear skies for us overnight with temperatures around this region at 3. Barons River has a slight chance of that rainfall. And then tomorrow, more sunshine, highs very similar in the mid-teens with some lighter winds. Slight chance of some rainfall overnight in northwestern Ontario, and then that continues on into tomorrow. Likely, though, it'll be a mix of sun and cloud. Warm high of 16 degrees there in Kenora. Your Skywatch picture of the day, Kimberly snapped this lovely shot near Dauphin. It's her pup enjoying the sunshine. Thank you so much for submitting. And this one is a stunner, to say the least. Wendy got this one on camera in Arnez. This looks like a painting. Look at those gorgeous fall colors. Thank you to you both for submitting. And if you have any weather photos you'd love to share with us, you can email them at winnipegweather@ctv.ca.
The CTV Skywatch Pick of the Day is brought to you by MJ the Musical at Centennial Concert Hall, November 5th to 9th.
Peter Nygard had some charges stayed over missing documentation, but how does evidence go missing, and what is the likelihood of an appeal? I'm going to speak with a local law professor to discuss just ahead. Disgraced fashion mogul Peter Nygard had his charges stayed yesterday after a judge found his right to a fair trial was breached by police who failed to retain records related to the allegations against him. And it has many questioning how police record keeping is done and how it will be done moving forward. Joining me now to discuss this is Brandon Trask, an associate professor in the Faculty of Law at the U of M. Brandon, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Marilee.
These records in question, I understand, are the initial police interviews with the complainant. I'm curious, why would police get rid of evidence like this?
Yeah, that's an excellent question, and I think that's really what Judge Harvey was struggling with in this situation. The Crown, and remember, this is a Crown prosecutor from Saskatchewan that was brought in because the Manitoba Crown decided they didn't have essentially a sufficient basis to proceed with this case. So the Crown, based in Saskatchewan, was essentially criticized by Judge Harvey in this decision for not providing enough information, enough background to try to persuade the court rather that the police took all the proper steps in order to try to preserve this evidence. So effectively, without the evidentiary foundation, the court was left with really no choice but to say this was hugely problematic that the police didn't keep these records, and this had a massive impact on the fair trial rights of Mr. Nygard.
You know, this obviously a high-profile case, which is, you know, why it's been getting a lot of attention to how these record-keeping policies are. These documents dated back to 1993, I believe. I'm curious from your perspective if this is something that happens often, you know, in historical allegation cases, or is it kind of rare for something to be missing like this to see charges stayed?
I mean, this case has a bunch of moving parts to it, but yeah, it's relatively rare to see an outcome like this. I mean, at the end of the day, it's important for the public to realize for very serious offenses that are preceded by way of indictment, so essentially the most serious approach that can be taken in Canada, sort of like the Canadian equivalent of a felony in the States. In Canada, there is no statute of limitations on proceeding. So you can have very, very historic sexual offenses cases that end up being prosecuted. And in that context, knowing that you can have charges come back, decades in time, it's very, very important for the police to hold on to all of the relevant records. Yes, this was from a while ago, back to 1993, but the seminal case on this in Canada, Stinchcombe, was decided in 1991. So the police essentially would have been on notice as of 1991 that it was absolutely essential to hold on to these records. And it's really unfortunate that these records were not retained.
Interesting. All right. Obviously sparking calls for changes to record keeping and storage. We heard that even from the judge in this case. I mean, this seems like a no-brainer to me, especially in a digital age. But are there challenges to keeping records, all kinds of records dating back this far?
I mean, yeah, I think the fix on a go-forward basis is a lot easier. I mean, it's going to cost money, frankly, but it's money well spent to make sure that there's an opportunity for justice to be done, and for the complainant to effectively have their day in court, but also for the accused to make sure that they have a fair trial. So on a go-forward basis, I think this is a very clear message that's been sent to the police that hopefully they pick up on across the country. The challenge, of course, is for records that may have already been discarded in other similar cases from the past. I think this case doesn't say that automatically all of those cases wouldn't be able to proceed. The judge in her decision was critical of the lack of evidence that was produced by the Crown, the lack of information provided from the police as to why they had these records issues and had the policies in place that they had. So perhaps in a different case, if satisfactory explanations can be provided by the Crown and the police, there may not be necessarily the same type of result, but based on the facts, or certainly the lack of satisfactory explanation here, the judge clearly felt that she had no choice but to issue a judicial stay of proceedings, given the fair trial issues that came up.
Given some of those extenuating circumstances you just highlighted, what are the chances there will be an appeal to this decision?
I mean, there's always a chance, but it would definitely be a bit of an uphill battle for the Crown in this situation, especially because, the judge's reasoning, Judge Harvey's reasoning, appeared to me to be extremely sound, and not only that, there's also the evidentiary record issue, even in court. So not just the police records, but actually, the information that is on the court record in relation to these retention issues is lacking. And so, I think it would be a bit of a struggle for the Crown to say that a different opinion, a different result should have flowed, because there just wasn't the evidence in place that probably would have been needed for that to happen.
Well, Brad, I want to thank you for your insight tonight, helping us better understand this. Much appreciated.
Thanks, Marilee.
The number of measles cases continues to rise in Manitoba. New data from the province shows there have been 225 confirmed cases so far this year. 5 of those were in the first 4 days of October. Another 18 cases are listed as probable. Measles is a highly contagious disease that sometimes can be fatal. It spreads through exposure to an infected person's mucus or saliva, and droplets can linger in the air for hours. South of the border, California has become the first state to legally define ultra-processed foods and ultimately ban them from being served to school children. The state legislature passed the first of its kind bill last month. It defines ultra-processed food as foods which may contain ingredients such as high amounts of saturated fat, sodium, added sugar, as well as certain additives. The law also requires public health officials and scientists to decide which ultra-processed foods are most harmful to human health. Foods of concern could then be removed from school menus. The law requires the foods to be identified and phased out in 10 years' time. Scientists at the University of Calgary are asking for your toenail clippings as part of a study exploring how radon gas is linked to lung cancer. Radon is the second leading cause of lung cancer after smoking. When radon decays in the body, it leaves behind lead-210, a radioactive byproduct. It can be detected in hair along with finger and toenails. Researchers say because toenails grow more slowly, they provide a better readout of longer-term exposure. The team has already studied 40 samples from Canadians and found high levels of lead-matched people living in homes with higher radon readings.
We now can actually gene sequence the tumor and look at the pattern of mutations there and say, absolutely, that is the tobacco-induced cancer mutation signature. We want to be able to do that for radon. If all of that works, we should have the ability to add in a person's long-term radon exposure to the criteria used right now to assess a person's risk.
New funding from the Canadian Cancer Society will now expand the study to 10,000 participants across Canada. For information about how you can participate, you can head to our website, ctvnews.ca/health.
Medical Watch is brought to you by Manuke and Koster Denture Clinic.
The Winnipeg Symphony Orchestra is going on a road trip of sorts. Details on an upcoming show outside Centennial Concert Hall next in Spotlight.
Spotlight, sponsored by the Casinos of Winnipeg, presenting Paula Cole and Sophie B. Hawkins.
Have you ever gone out hunting for a sweet treat but ended up getting tricked instead? Well, these siblings sure have. The Royal Winnipeg Ballet is putting a new spin on the classic Brothers Grimm tale, Hansel and Gretel. Colorful vaudeville characters bring the audience back to the 30s, the 1930s, that is. Christopher Stowell, RWB's new artistic director, says the ballet is super fun, but also speaks to struggles felt today.
And it not only deals with a fairy tale, but also with elements of being a human that we can relate to now. Like Hansel and Gretel and their family, they don't have a lot of resources. They're going hungry, they're poor, so food scarcity, poverty, and how people react to that.
The curtain opens on Hansel and Gretel tonight and runs through Sunday at Centennial Concert Hall. Tickets can be purchased on the RWB's website. The Winnipeg Symphony Orchestra is taking their show on the road, sort of. The WSO is bringing its music to audiences in the south end of the city this fall. The WSO calls it Symphony in South Winnipeg. The orchestra will perform at the Des Hotels Concert Hall at the University of Manitoba's Fort Garry campus. It's the Symphony's first solo show in the hall, as it tries to connect with audiences beyond the Centennial Concert Hall. Here works by Beethoven, Rossini, and Barber. Performances take place Friday, November 7th, and Saturday, November 8th at 7:30. Tickets for both performances are now on sale at WSO.ca. The first batch of performers and presenters for the 2025 Rock and Roll Hall of Fame ceremony have been announced. Sir Elton John will be taking the stage alongside the likes of Olivia Rodrigo, Doja Cat, 21 Pilots, and Iggy Pop. Inductees this year include Bad Company, Chubby Checker, Cyndi Lauper, Soundgarden, and more. The induction ceremony will be streamed live on Disney Plus on November 8th. And your primetime lineup starts at 7 with Hell's Kitchen. 911 Nashville follows at 8, and catch Grey's Anatomy at 9. It's all right here on CTV.
Man's best friend is proving once again how he got the name. How a dog in Florida turned into an unlikely rescuer. Still ahead.
Women's clothing provided by RW & Company. Salon services provided by S&T Spa Salon.
Sun is beginning to set over Winnipeg after a clear, lovely day. 15 degrees out there with some still very strong northwesterly winds. They will be tapering off overnight. Meanwhile, we got as high as 19 degrees today in terms of our temperatures. Not too far off what we were at last year, but a ways off that record set back in 1938. Overnight, we'll see those skies remain clear. Temperatures dipping down to 3. Into tomorrow, some increase in clouds, but for the most part, decently clear, 15 degrees. Saturday, those showers are very likely with 17 degrees. And then on Sunday, it's looking like a cloudy and soggy day before that temperature really dips off by start of next week.
Thanks, Catherine. A dog named Eeyore is being hailed a hero, leading a Florida sheriff's deputy to a missing 86-year-old woman, and it was all captured on body cam footage.
Hi, baby. Where's your mama? Hi. Hi, where's your mama?
The woman's husband reported her missing after she didn't return home from a walk. It turns out she had fallen and couldn't get up. The deputy drove around the neighborhood until she spotted Eeyore in the middle of the road, and Eeyore led her to the nearby spot where the woman had fallen.
He ran up to my car and I said, bring me to your mommy, and he ran back here.
He come up to your car?
Mm-hmm. Good boy.
Sweetheart.
Good boy. Very good boy.
What a good boy. The woman was astonished that Eeyore guided the deputy to her because guess what? Eeyore isn't even her dog.
Oh,
Just doing a good deed.
We don't deserve dogs, I tell ya.
Good job. I hope he got some extra treats.
So many treats, lots of belly rubs.
All right, that does it for us tonight. Go Jets go. We will have the results on the late news at 11:30. You can tune in and watch that with Taylor tonight.